In 2026, the average MBA at a top program will cost you somewhere between $200,000 and $260,000. That's tuition, fees, housing, and 2 years of lost income. So here's the question every applicant asks at 2 in the morning. Is that actually worth it, or is it one of the most expensive mistakes you could make? Today, we're going to run the real numbers, not brochure numbers. Real numbers and figure out exactly who an MBA still pays off for in 2026 and who should walk away. Let's start with what an MBA actually costs in 2026. At top 50 programs, average tuition alone now exceeds $150,000 for a 2-year degree. Add in housing, fees, and books, and total cost of attendance at elite M7. Level schools lands between $240,000 and $265,000. Most students don't pay that in cash. The median debt load for full-time MBA graduates now sits near $70,000. And if you're financing through private loans, interest rates can run 7 to 12%, depending on your credit. On a $250,000 loan over 10 years, that's a monthly payment north of $3,000. That's not a fun fact, that's a real claim on your paycheck for the next decade. Now, the other side of the ledger. Median MBA salaries globally are sitting around $125,000 a year, according to MAC data. And employability is strong. The vast majority of MBA graduates land a job within 3 months of graduation, especially in consulting, technology, and financial services. More than a third of employers say they plan to increase MBA hiring in 2026. So on paper, a $30,000 to $50,000 salary bump sounds transformative. But that number only tells half the story, because if you're carrying 6 figures of debt, your real, disposable income increase is a lot smaller than your headline salary increase. Here's how you actually calculate whether it's worth it. Take your salary increase, subtract your loan payments, and see how many years it takes to break even against total cost of attendance. Example, a graduate goes from $75,000 a year to $120,000 a year, a $45,000 jump. Against a $100,000 total program cost, that's a positive return in just over 2 years. But stretch that same math to a $250,000 elite program financed entirely with debt, and break-even can stretch out to 5, 6, even 8 years once you factor in interest and lost income during school. Most graduates start seeing real ROI within 2 to 4 years, but most is doing a lot of work in that sentence because outcomes vary enormously by program tier, industry, and how much debt you're carrying. So who is an MBA still a smart bet for in 2026? First, career switchers. If you're trying to pivot into consulting, investment banking, or a completely new industry, an MBA is still one of the most reliable doors in those industries, still treat it as a gatekeeper credential. Second, people early to mid-career, usually 5 to 10 years in, who are hitting a ceiling without a graduate degree and needed to move into leadership. Third, anyone targeting roles where the degree itself is a hard requirement or a strong, unwritten expectation, like certain private equity, consulting, or executive track corporate roles. And fourth, people who get into a program with a scholarship or partial funding, which fundamentally changes the entire break-even calculation in their favor. Now, the harder truth. There are real scenarios in 2026 where the honest answer is no. If you're going into massive debt for a mid-tier program with weak employment outcomes, the math often doesn't work. You can end up with a salary bump that barely covers the loan payments. If your target industry, say, software engineering or product design, increasingly hires based on portfolios and demonstrated skills rather than degrees, an MBA may add less signal than you'd expect. And if you're already in a senior role where you're past the point of needing a credential to prove your capability, the ROI shifts away from salary and toward things like credibility for a board seat, which is a very different calculation than a straightforward salary payback. Before you commit, it's worth knowing what's competing with the MBA in 2026. Stackable micro-credentials and specialized certificates in things like AI, analytics, and data-driven decision-making are increasingly recognized by employers, often at a fraction of the cost and time of a full 2-year MBA. Online and part-time MBA formats let you keep earning a salary while you study, which changes the ROI math significantly by removing the lost income cost entirely. And in some industries, demonstrated experience and a strong portfolio are simply carrying more weight than they did 5 years ago. None of these replace what a top MBA delivers, but they're worth weighing against the full cost of the traditional path. So, is an MBA still worth it in 2026? There's no single yes or no answer, and honestly, anyone who gives you one is oversimplifying it. It depends on your program tier, your industry, how much debt you're taking on, and where you are in your career. Run your own numbers before you run anyone else's advice. If this breakdown helped, subscribe to MBA Breakdown. Every week we run the real math on business school decisions, so you can make yours with your eyes open.